everyone, welcome back to AMWG Channel. I'm your host today, Chuck, and today we're doing a little bit something special. We are working on an interview in Zentier's office in Hong Kong. So right next to me is the owner of Zentier, my friend Morten. Morten, say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone.
Okay, before we start, maybe we should introduce a little bit about Zentier by my friend.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure. First of all, welcome to our office. It's a pleasure having you here, and I'll just give you a short introduction into the brand, into who I am. I'm the founder of Zentier. My name is Morten Loewe. I'm originally from Denmark, but as you know, we're here in Hong Kong, where I've been living the last 12 years of my life. A little bit of background, I'm a professional dancer. I'm former world champion and European champion, together with some other titles. I've been a long time watch collector, and that has led me into having thoughts of starting my own brand. And about a year ago we started Zentier with a little bit of help, of course. Now we have a small team running it.
Okay, that's some good introduction about your brand. And the main thing we try to do today is to talk about a little bit more your story, setting up your own brand, and also the story behind the Zentier, the inspiration from it. So before you start the brand, what kind of enthusiast, what type of enthusiast, watch enthusiast you are, and what kind of stuff that you have been collecting?
Well, yeah, getting into my own collection would be a whole other interview, but I'll start out by saying I started watch collecting in what is a very, I think, diverse way, or maybe a better word would simply be, honestly, to say random, but which I think is what is a privilege and what people should aim to do in the beginning. I collected watches that had absolutely nothing in common: vintage watches, modern watches, chronographs, time only, like big watches, small watches, across the whole spectrum. I just simply collected what spoke to me. And then later I went back over my collection and I thought, a lot of these watches really have something in common. And I think that's when you as a collector learn your own style, your own feel for the watches. What is it that really attracts you?
Yes.
What do they have in common?
Yep.
I started with some vintage Omegas, Speedmasters, Seamasters, vintage Breitling as well. One of my first vintage watches that I bought was a vintage Breitling 768 that was made for the Luftwaffe, a watch that later became a huge inspiration to me when it comes to dial designs and also case size, something I really like. Then of course we moved into more what I call grail pieces for me, which is where I focus my collection a lot nowadays. If it's not grail material to me, then I don't find it very interesting. I've shaved my collection down a lot, gotten rid of a lot of stuff, and I really want the pieces that I find perfection in. The pieces where I wouldn't want to change anything. And a lot of those pieces have inspired me to design the watches that you see from Zentier. There are obvious design clues from both Lange, Patek Philippe, the more old-fashioned chronographs, both in terms of case designs, the locks, the pushers. That I think has really been a big inspiration for me, because that's where my heart lies within watch collecting.
Okay, that's some great story about you being a watch enthusiast throughout the years. Because me personally, I tuned down my watch collection in the previous 1 or 2 years as well. I gave away a lot to my friends, and realizing what kind of watches at the end I really want. I want to keep permanently on my collection, and I can wear them daily. I think that matters the most.
I think so.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next question. What brought you the idea of creating your own brand?
Well, it was obviously several things over a period of time, but I have one idea that really hits home for me, and I was watching an interview with Tom Ford, and he had the same question, and he explained it like this. He said, when I was very young, my parents took me to buy me my first pair of sneakers that I could choose myself. And he said, so I got these white sneakers, and on the way home in the car, I keep looking down at these sneakers and I'm thinking, it's just something a bit off on the toe. He said, if I could just change that a little bit, the proportion is not quite right. And I mean, we're talking here like a 5-6-year-old kid, right? And that hit it with me. That's how I always feel it. Like when I get watches, when I buy watches, and even today, you know how it is. You buy a watch, it might be an expensive watch, and now you wear it a little bit and you go like, if the locks were just a little bit thicker, or if they had just used, a 21 millimeter instead of a 20 millimeter, like those small things, they really inspired me to do it right. And I know from my own also profession as a dancer, it's you get it right yourself. You have to create your own vision and get it out in life.
Yes.
And I think that challenge for me has been my inspiration to start my own brand.
Yeah, that's a good story. Me personally, I do that often too. Because yesterday I just received a watch from Timex. I bought it from Timex. And I saw it, I was like, oh, I wish the crown would be a little bit different. That would be perfect. Since you have been setting up your brand for like a year and two, so what kind of challenges you have throughout the time you're working on the design, the production, etc.?
Well, I would say that there are obvious challenges. I think there are in anything you set out to do, especially during the COVID time, of course, there are challenges. But I would say in general, just I've kept focused on the design language. I've kept focused on what it is that I want to create. I am not feeling rushed that I have to get this stuff out, that it has to make a lot of money. This is my passion. But I would say in general, the biggest challenges has just been getting my vision out, getting my vision through to other people who can help me create the product that I see, the product that I want to be just right for me. And to make other people understand that and help you make that, that's been a challenge. But overall, I would say it's not been that hard.
Yeah. Okay, a little bit more from Zentier, the story of it. Let's move on to talk about the watches you guys have. Let's talk a little bit about the first one, the chrono one.
The chronograph is our first line of watches that we released. It comes in 5 color variations, 5 different dials. As I've already mentioned a little bit, the inspiration for these chronographs lead back to very early, let's nowadays say vintage chronographs, which I've always been a very big fan of. I've been always attracted to the 3 sub-dial chronograph. So to me it was all really actually straightforward and simple when it came to designing this watch, because it's all of my favorite components that I kind of build into one watch.
Yeah, I like the fact that you implemented some of those latest hard colorways into such vintage design. And and that all of a sudden it makes it I would say a new vintage look.
I get what you mean.
That's something special.
But then it was also very important to me to, like you say, bring in some unique colors, something that, let's say, you might not see in the high-end chronograph. Let's say you're talking about a 3970 or 5970. Those are grail pieces. They're very high-end. They're very luxurious, and you might not get a green dial. Unless you have all the other colors first.
Right. When you have the money for the first one, you gotta go for the classic.
That's it. That's what I thought as well.
Speaking of some hot colorway for nowadays brand watches, we have something special in here. We have the Z2 with I would say it's not exactly the Tiffany blue.
Well, so the second line that we brought out was the C2, which is the automatic watch, our first automatic watch. And you're mentioning the blue that we call Lagoon Blue.
Lagoon Blue.
It's not exactly a Tiffany blue. The inspiration for this watch was really to create something very diverse. It had to be a sports watch. I wanted it to be waterproof to 100 meters. You jump off a boat or you're open sea swimming, which I enjoy doing. I wanted something that could withstand that. And for me, it's very important that the watch always remain stylish. It has to be stylish, elegant, and very sleek. Even though it's a sports watch, I don't like it to be very bulky. I don't like it to be overpowering.
Maybe we should talk about who are buying from Zentier and how they give feedback to you.
All right. Well, who's buying our watches? Very surprised and very happy to say that it's a very wide group, a variety of people buying our watches. As I expected, a lot of people buying micro brands are actually people buying their first watch. People who, obviously thanks to Facebook and Instagram, they know about watches, they know what they like, and they're looking to buy a watch, maybe not their first watch, but very early on in the collecting, and they buy something that reminds them of some of those grail pieces that we already talked about, and something that they really aspire to, but which is, let's call it entry level, or let's call it more feasible to be able to get it without waiting list for 25 years or a lifetime. And also a lot of very seasoned and very high-end collectors have reached out to us, adding Zentier to their collection, which is something that I'm very proud of and I'm very happy about, especially we talked about COVID and the whole situation around COVID. Traveling with watches is something that many people now are, I think, very, very careful with. There are these moments when you want to do something that might put your watch at risk, but you know, I still want to wear a nice watch. I still want to wear something that I look down and I admire that watch, even given that moment when you jump in the water or you're out doing sports. I still want the privilege of wearing a nice watch, and that's where I think micro brands especially come into play.
So moving on, I would say some extra questions about how you define your own brand Zentier in the micro brand market. Nowadays we are literally flooded with micro brands, but what's so special about Zentier in your perspective in this market?
Well, true, like you say, there are a lot of brands which I'm now very aware of, but which is something I wasn't very aware of, and maybe that was a benefit because I set out to create something that is very luxurious in the feel, in the touch, in the look, something where the details are perfectly harmonized. And I think that has ended up setting us apart from a lot of other micro brands. The feel and the sense of luxury and the finishing itself is so important. And I think that is really the strength of the brand, and that is important. I don't want to wear a watch that looks like it costs the price that it costs. I want that whole thing of you get what you pay for. That was a challenge for me, to break that rule. I want you to get a lot more than what you pay for. And I think so far we've succeeded in doing that.
That's the feelings when I first see the Z2, the Z2, and this is actually my first time seeing it in the all black colorway. And I gotta say, this looks like a ceramic.
Yeah,
it looks like the finishing on it looks like ceramic.
I'm happy you say that.
That's the good thing about it. These watches, they look way more expensive than they cost.
The important thing, and what I also think sets us apart, is our vision and how important it is to us not to do the same thing twice. We're moving forward. We are not a brand with a brand history of 150 years. And yeah, that takes time. We need to sell some watches. We need to develop things. We need to step on that ladder one step at a time. But that's definitely what we are aiming to do. And I think that sets us apart as well. If you buy watches from us, if you follow Zentier, you can expect the next watch that you're going to buy from us is going to be on a whole new level, which I think we have achieved with the two lines we've come up with already.
So with all that being said, we are all curious about what's the next project for Zentier, or the next few projects for Zentier, and hear a little bit about you.
Well, okay, it's no secret. We've got a lot of projects lined up. We've got a lot of prototypes in the making. We have some ideas for this year. We're in 2022. We've got already our projects for 2023 lined up. And I don't want to say too much, but absolutely the near future is gonna have something to do with Swiss movements.
That's it's not
the next project that's coming out, but it's very near. The next project coming out is a dress watch, and we're going down in size a little bit.
That's good to hear.
Building forward on the other models, I promise you the dial is not going to disappoint, and the size will be, I think, very, very perfect.
I think dress watch is something missing in the current watch industry. People having less appreciation on dress watches, instead they go for more sporty style nowadays.
Well, I think, and that comes maybe as well, there are certain limitations when it comes to manufacturing, and especially for micro brands, it is not easy, and it was a huge challenge for us to do the right case for a sleek dress watch. Now, if you're talking about a chronograph, they're naturally a bit thicker and a bit bigger, as they would be with any premium brand. But when you come to create a sleek, nice dress watch that fits under your shirt cuff, it's a lot more challenging. And I think that's why you don't see it as much, because it's hard to get it just right. But I think we've really nailed it with this one.
Okay, so with these projects coming up, do you have any advice for people who wants to have their own brand? Maybe for those people who are watching, they are curious about how to get it right, how to get their first watch brand to start off.
Well, I can only say, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, I think go ahead and do it. If you love it, if you are passionate about it, if you're hardworking, and if it's really what you want to do, you will succeed at it. I think there will be plenty of people telling you you can't do it. It's too challenging, the market is too big, it's too competitive, but I can't see why that should stop anybody who is passionate about it, who loves it, and again, like I said, do it for the right reasons. Then I think it's so giving, and it gives you a chance to immerse yourself even more into this community that we've talked about, which is what I think is at the center of what we're doing. It's this watch community, which is really unique, and which is something to value very highly.
So to wrap it up, thanks for having me today, to hearing about your own brand story, but other than that, your inspiration for creating your own brand. I think that's some great content for not only myself, but also for the ones who are watching.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for coming. This is indeed the first time that I give a little bit of background information into what started Zentier, into who am I, and into what we're doing. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is actually Morten's idea to do an interview. So I think this is also our first time working on such interview type of video in our channel. So that's some great content, something special, something we need in not just for social media, but also for watch industry.
Yeah, I think it's important to engage with the community, and maybe this video also opens up for people to have more questions, who wants to get in touch, who wants to learn something, or who just wants maybe to share something. I think that's very important.
Yeah, so you guys make sure you subscribe. If you have anything, any questions, any wondering, feel free to comment down below. Me and maybe Morten will also answer some of your questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you very much.